Okay, well, welcome once again to the Cow Report. This is June, I think it's June 6th, isn't it, Fred?
I think you're right.
This is real time, so it's June 6th, 1994. And we're coming to you live from the beautiful downtown L.E. Phillips Memorial Library in the hot, humid basement, Fred.
Is it?
It's hot in here with these lights, I'll tell you.
All right.
But as usual, Fred, boy, oh boy, do we have a lot to talk about.
Lots of things going on.
I know, and we're going to be taking calls here in a little while. If anyone's watching now, there's a guy that's inventing a lawnmower, Fred, that has a television attachment so that you can watch our show as you're cutting your lawn or doing your barbecue or anything. It's kind of a frame that you can put on and strap on, and then you can set the television right there on a little table, about eye level, so you can watch our show while you're cutting grass or barbecuing or any of that stuff of that nature. Isn't that nice?
Yeah, but you got to keep your mind on what you're doing there instead of looking at the TV.
Sometimes, Fred, our show is more important than what you're doing.
I know that. That's why you should go in and watch it in comfort at home.
Okay, well, we got a lot to talk about as usual. Of course, with me is my rusty sidekick, Fred, Mr. Truth Stafford.
Fred Stafford, that's me.
Now,
Yes.
you're the former commander of all
No,
American Legion forces
no.
on the south side of Eau Claire.
I was the commander of Post 53 for about 16 months. I am a past commander now.
All right,
I'm a former state commander of the Catholic War Veterans.
okay.
And I'm a past Grand Knight of the Knights of Columbus. I'm the president of the American Family Association, Eau Claire chapter.
Any other advertisements you want to get in?
No, not at the present
Are
time.
you running for anything?
No.
Okay, well, you'd think you were, Fred. I heard that the Republicans had another wing-ding state convention down there in Madison.
Yes.
Well, now, were you there?
No, I was not.
Well, Madison, or in Eau Claire, no, it wasn't Madison, I guess it was Milwaukee.
It was in Milwaukee.
A Eau Claire delegate introduced a bill,
A resolution.
resolution on testing for HIV, Fred.
Yes. Testing
And-
for AIDS.
I thought I brought it with me. Did you bring that with you? Is there anything that you got on that? Okay, it says
There it
here
is.
on the Monday edition of the Eau Claire Leader Telegram. I'm glad that they let us use their stuff, Fred.
Yes.
As long as we give them credit for it.
Yes.
Sometimes it'd be hard for us to say anything without what they've printed ahead of time. But there was a AIDS resolution introduced by Don Brill to be said that it's time for AIDS to be. Brill says it's time for AIDS to be recognized as a disease rather than a human right. So Brill introduced a proposal for public health control of AIDS, and it was passed on a narrow margin, Fred, but it was passed nonetheless. And so the state Republican Party now has an AIDS plank in their
Yes.
their constitution or their bylaws or whatever you want to call it.
Well,
Their 1994
right.
resolutions, which states that they're for the testing of people with the HIV virus. Now, what are they going to do with those tests once they're done, Fred? Did you get that far in the article?
Yeah, I read the whole article there, and it's not a very long article. They can keep the tests quiet, but something has to be done to prevent the further spread of AIDS. And if you have AIDS, some people may not know they have it, which is unfortunate, and be passing it on to others.
Well, Fred, we're going to have people call in and maybe want to discuss that issue amongst other issues. And the thing with the AIDS virus, or the HIV virus, it's not the HIV virus which gets you.
What are you doing with that glove on? I thought you were going to take it off when Nelson Mandela took over, and he took over, didn't he?
That was the bullet belt.
Oh. Well, why
Remember
are
Nelson Boom Boom
why are you
Mandela?
wearing that yellow glove?
This is the Michael Jackson memorial glove.
Well, I don't think he needs any memorials. He's
Well-
doing pretty well without you wearing it.
Well, that was all the rage, Fred.
He's
and
only
now-
making a few $1 million a year.
we're selling these now through the Flavin Company for $19.95. So you
Yes.
got to get in a commercial every once in a while for the Flavin Company, who underwrites this whole program.
I think I can buy a glove just like that for $1.98 in any store.
Yeah, but this is the Michael Jackson Memorial Glove.
Well, you can call it anything you want, but it's still only worth $1.98.
The $19 goes to the Flavin Company, who sponsors many worthwhile causes around the United States and in the Eau Claire area, Fred.
Oh,
in
yes.
the Chippewa Valley.
Yes.
Many,
Oh,
many
yes,
causes, worthwhile causes. But anyway, this HIV virus, just reading up on it, Fred, and it's more prevalent in the saliva than it is in the blood.
Mm.
And there just so happens to be a $3 or $4 test, saliva test, that you can get if the United States health officials will just let it be marketed. Anybody can find out if they're HIV positive with a $3 or $4 test. And so far our government, for whatever reasons, is holding off from allowing that on the market. And it's very, very much more accurate than the blood test, Fred.
It's interesting.
And when that, but the CDC, which is the official government mouthpiece for as far as health diseases and quarantines and all that stuff, Centers for Disease Control out of Atlanta, Georgia, has stated a bogus figure of 1 million people infected with HIV in the United States now for several years. Even when Magic Johnson got it, it didn't go up to 1,000,001, Fred. It's just stayed at that magic number of 1 million.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, there are several times that many infected, and that's why the GOP didn't really do anything spectacular over there, Fred. This should have been done 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Should have been a mandatory testing. Of course, this doesn't hold any, this isn't binding on any city or county or state governments. This resolution, this proposal that the GOP passed in Milwaukee at their state convention is not binding in any way at all. Just merely says that the Republican Party of Wisconsin, by a narrow margin, says that they would like to have HIV testing to track down, from what I understand, to track down people that are infected with the HIV, and not to track them down, but to identify them so that we can get this disease, which is contagious, get it under control. So what do you think about that?
Well, it sounds like a good idea.
What part of it?
Well, I think if we're going to get a handle on this, they got to have some means of identifying those who have it, and then to attempt to not only begin treatment, but to see that they don't pass it on to others.
That's right.
That's common sense.
If you had hepatitis or tuberculosis, they would try and track you down. Or what's that other one that was so cholera, or the one that just spread like wildfire in South America? If those were, just think of the problems we'd have if those weren't kept track of.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the HIV virus is another communicable disease. It doesn't matter where it's coming from or where it's going. We need to get a handle on it and get some testing done that the doctors and medical staff, medical professionals in the state and country can get a handle on this thing, Fred, and know where we're at.
Right.
Some estimates say there's upwards of 10 million people infected with HIV virus in the United States, not 1 million. It'd be interesting to know where we're at, Fred. Okay, before we go to Fred, who's got some very important information over there, we're going to let people know what happened on this date, June 5th, or yesterday actually, in the year 1851, Fred. Now, you were around back then. What happened in that?
1851. No, I don't think so. I was born a few years after that.
Well, it was Uncle Tom's Cabin appeared for the first time in print, June 5th, 1851. This attack on slavery was used as a rallying cry for abolitionists for years before the Civil War. So the Civil War, that wasn't the beginning of the fight over slavery, Fred. It started many years before that. Okay, what do you got over there that you're just itching to
here
tell
I
people
see
about?
that the Leader Telegram on Sunday, June 5th, on a front-page article, has an article by Arthur L. Serb from Associated Press. It says, Christian group might split GOP. Members of a Christian organization seeking candidates who will advocate family values got a mixed reception from the delegates at the Republican State Convention, it states here. Some delegates voiced concern that the Wisconsin Christian Coalition Incorporated may select candidates to run against Republican office holders who don't measure up to the group's standards. I guess some people don't want standards to have people measure up to. It says about 60 delegates jammed into a small hotel room Friday evening for a pep talk from the group's leader, Virginia Marshman of suburban Brookfield. I don't think we're people to be feared, we're people to be embraced, Marshman said. I'm proud to be a Christian and I'm proud to be involved in politics.
She's the head of the Christian Coalition in the state, right?
Apparently.
State director? So she mustered 60 delegates out of the, what, 2,500 that were there?
See, this now, when was this? Was this on Saturday or was it on Friday night? Friday night. See, that's a lot of them weren't there yet. Some didn't get in until Saturday. Others came on Sunday.
Well, I guess even 60 delegates scares them down there in Milwaukee. I know they're nervous about it down in Madison.
It says further here, and a representative Lolita Snyder's Republican of Menominee Falls says, we can have Christian fundamentals in our party, but we should be pulling together. And then it goes on to say that I've been in the Assembly for 12 years, always been in the minority, and this is Snyder's who said that. And Senator Margaret Farrell, Republican of Elm Grove, said she suspects Marshman's coalition is ready to back a challenger against her re-election bid in November.
What's wrong with that? Isn't that the American way?
Sure.
I mean, just because you got GOP or R behind your name, that doesn't prove anything.
Well, you know, we already have a Democratic big tent party, and anybody can be in there, as you well know. Homosexuals, abortionists, anything else you want to do.
Nazis, communists?
I don't know about those two, but almost anything else. Well, the Republican Party should be a party of principle. Otherwise, what's the sense of belonging to it?
Well, we're going to take a call here, Fred. Somebody's been eagerly waiting for a while, and we'll let people chew on this here debate about what's so great about the Republican Party or what's so not so great about it. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Hey, Status, I fucked your wife last night.
Well, Fred, there's another fine example of the very expensive public education system in the Eau Claire area.
Well,
Now, I've been doing some very heavy research on that, Fred.
You can't blame them for everything like that.
And I would just as soon see that amount of money given to people in the form of a voucher. Roughly, what did we say it was, $6,200? Give people a voucher and let them decide whether they want to get educated up to the standards of this young man or get a fine private education. I think we might have a call on line 2. So we'll try that one. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
I'd just like to say how disappointed I am in today's youth because I fucked your wife, not that other guy.
Well, Fred, that's that kid that claims to be the GPX guy. Now,
Well,
we've seen his picture here we've seen his mug here on TV, and it's obvious we know who he is.
Yeah.
And he thinks he's cool, but it's a very childish thing to do, and it just once again it proves the standard of education that the children are receiving in this area,
Well, I
in
think
the public schools.
we ought to trace that call there and take him to court.
Well, we could file charges against him. I know who it is. If that's the level he wants to play on, he can go in. We can file disorderly conduct charges. I just hope that public access has nothing to do with putting the poor kid up to it. He's been on here. You'd think they'd talk to him about it. I mean, you'd think they wouldn't want kids like him calling up and cussing. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah. I'm really
disappointed about all these people calling. They don't really have any subject to talk about.
Well, we were discussing the fine education system that they've been educated in the Eau Claire area, and it's just proves that we need private education in this area.
Yeah, 'cause I fucked your wife, fat ass.
There's another fine example of the left-wing scum that calls in once in a while, Fred.
Well, I don't think, may not be left-wing, but it's some people who think it's funny. They have a weird sense of humor.
Yeah, and I just hope that public access isn't involved in any way, if it's any of their scum calling in. Okay, on this date, June 6th, 1798, and thank God for this, Fred, debtor prisons were outlawed in the United States. Isn't that wonderful? 1798, they got rid of debtor prisons. So before that date, they had debtor prisons in this country. And no telling what they were used for. Hopefully just for debts.
Yeah.
But do you ever think about it, Fred? If you got a bad debt and you're in prison, how are you going to earn the money to work your way out of prison?
Right.
If you don't have a job.
That's a good point.
Okay, we're going to try this again and see if we have somebody with half a brain. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, I don't really think it's the public education system. I think it's their parents not being home right now to watch them on the phone.
Yeah, and we come to that point in this country that the parents have to watch 15, 16-year-old kids because they...
The teachers can't be babysitters all the time. They only have them, 8 hours a day. So, the other rest of the time they're with their parents, and that's about all I had to say. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, caller. Well, there, Fred, we finally got a good call in. The parents are letting these youngsters that evidently they have to be watched because they don't have a brain in their head.
I wouldn't say that. They got a brain, but it's not functioning properly.
Which part? Boy, Fred, it must be 120 under these lights tonight, you know it?
Yes, I know it's warm.
Okay. Debtor prison, June 6th, 1798. They got rid of those. Okay, we're going to try and take another educated call. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Hey, I was wondering, okay, I'm with this organization called Oodles of Poodles, and we were wondering how you felt about, like, society in general and things like that, like how, since kids are so pushy nowadays and things,
Uh-huh.
I mean, what do you feel on that topic?
What do you exactly mean by oodles of poodles?
Well, see, we go around, we educate people on ruthless, like, say, teenage, like teens that, like, come and beat you up and stuff like that, and, like, make them better aware of how they can protect themselves. And, like, we sell, like, alarm systems and things,
Uh-huh.
So, I don't know, I mean, how do you feel about, like, because there's a lot of bad people out there,
Yeah. Okay. Fred, what do you think about that?
Well, it's a problem. I think there's one answer to all of this, and we need a moral and spiritual revival in our country. And do unto others as you would have them do unto you, is a good rule.
How about a big old wooden paddle, Fred?
Well, maybe we should have the caning here too as well.
Yeah.
It seems to be effective in Malaysia.
Yeah, it was just people wringing their hands.
And some of these kids
child.
probably never were spanked.
That poor child is going to get hit 3 times with a stick. That poor thing.
And if he had behaved himself, he wouldn't get hit, period.
Yep. Okay, we'll try and take another call here. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Oh, I was just listening to Fred there a few minutes ago and talking about people in prison with education and what they're going to do. And listening to the Donahue show here about 3-4 weeks ago, people in prison have first chance to go to universities and be educated according to federal law, and the government pays for it. People on the outside have been turned away for some of the universities because they don't have room to get in while the prisoners get in. So that's a good way to get an education for nothing. You can come out with a doctorate, master's, and the government pays for it.
So we have educated criminals then.
That's right.
Yeah, well, it's too bad they didn't get the education before they went in.
Well, I just thought that, some of those guys that are calling in, and they might think about that. Maybe they can get an education that way. They won't have to work so hard, and they can, the government will take care of it for them.
Well, I know that certain groups have tried to take Bibles out of, well, they've pretty much taken it out of the school system, but they even want to take them out of public workplaces, and they want to take them out of hotel rooms. But the first thing you do when you walk into a prison cell, there's a big old Bible there, Fred. Isn't that nice that you have to go to prison to read a Bible?
Well, it won't do you any harm, and if you read the Bible, maybe it'll keep you out of there in the future.
Yeah.
And you got to believe in it, too.
Right.
Uh-huh.
When you have access to a Bible, and some of the people who go to prison may not have had access to a Bible, it wasn't in their home, while they're in prison, they may read it, and it may ring a bell and cause a change of heart with that particular individual.
Right, you don't have to belong to any party to read the Bible either.
Right.
No, it's the Bible. The Bible and the cross are kind of, everybody's equal at the foot of the cross,
Right.
and they're all equal when they're reading the Bible too.
You guys are doing a good job, and I want you to hang in there. You got a lot of odds against you in different ways, but we appreciate listening to you.
Yeah, they've been trying to get us off the air for years. But what have we been together now, Fred? 20, 25 years? They haven't done it yet.
No.
They pulled just about every string they can down here, public access, to get us off, but we're still hanging in there.
That's great. Thanks a lot, fellas.
All right. Okay, Fred.
Yes.
There's another fine gentleman calling in. Fine, educated young man there. Did you recognize him?
No.
All
The
right.
voice sounds familiar, though, I'll tell you that.
Well, we started talking
I'm trying
about
to place it.
we started talking about Republicans and how just because you got an R after your name, that doesn't prove nothing, Fred.
Yeah.
Now, I got an article out of the Wisconsin State Journal today, and the headline says, "Religious Right Shows Muscle." And Wally North whipped them down there, Fred, and the Christian Conservative
Down in
Coalition
Virginia.
showed that they still got muscle in this party, and the liberal crybabies in the party better wake up, because this Republican Party still has some Christian conservatives that are showing them what time it is. And
That's good.
I guess just recently in, where was it, Kentucky, Fred, where the Baptist minister won a seat down there? Conservative?
Well, we have to elect people who know right from wrong. If they don't know right from wrong, well, they're not morally qualified for that office.
Okay, we're going to try and take another caller. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air. Hello?
Yeah, I would like to direct this question to Fred. He looks kind of happy. Is he sitting on something like a dildo?
Well, Fred, there you go. There you have it. You think you got this problem licked?
For his information, I'm sitting on a chair.
Okay, Fred. So, we're going to take another call here in a second, but we're going to tell the folks out there exactly what happened on this date in history, Fred.
Yes.
If it wasn't for us, they wouldn't even know this stuff. What happened on this date, June 6th, 1968, Fred?
June 6th,
maybe that'll be our
1968?
maybe that'll be our quiz, our pop quiz question of the
June
evening
6th, 1968.
for all the educated people out there. June 6th, 1968.
Have anything to do with Vietnam?
Nope, you're wrong, Fred, but we're going to give away a bottle of, what is that, Fred's
Best Pop. See, business is picking up. I sold another bottle of this. I'm going to have to get a bigger bathtub.
I've been authorized. Might as well tell you before I take this next call, Fred.
I'm not interested in any offer that you or Flavin Slop can make.
I've been authorized to go up to $24.95
Well, that's cash.
for all the rights to that stuff there.
Cash?
We can probably work that out.
I don't think I'm interested.
Well, you better think.
Is that just $24.95? You don't mean
That's for everything.
$24,500,000?
That's for the whole kit and caboodle.
Well, if you get it up to the million,
That's for the whole lock,
I
stock,
might
and barrel.
listen. I'll even sell you the bathtub.
That's probably all you got. It's one barrel of it at home, too. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Hey, dude.
Hey.
I want to know how you feel about Kurt Cobain's suicide, because I really liked him and he killed himself, and I was really bummed. So how do you feel about that?
Okay. Well, we'll let Fred answer, because Fred is Mr. Wright Stafford, so he knows a lot about these things. Fred, what do you think about that young
Well,
man?
I think it's sad that that happened, that anybody takes their own life. I can understand if one is taking drugs or heavily into alcohol, they may get to the point where they don't feel they got anything to live for. Unfortunately, the problem is what they're putting in their body, and they got to get off that stuff.
Well, Fred, you know, that kid was just wobbling around, flying around, and doing all them things, shooting up heroin and taking all kinds of drugs and working 18, 20 hours a day. And one day he just decided to land, and big old fly swatter came out, killed him dead in a doornail, and now he's down in hell.
Well,
Blew his own head off.
you know, I listened to a man one night at a open AA meeting, and this goes back over 10 years ago. And that man was a truck driver, and he wanted to make money, and he is an independent truck driver. He had his own tractor, as they call it, and if he got a job, he just pulled in and delivered a trailer load someplace, and somebody else said, hey, we got a load that's got to be in Timbuktu tomorrow morning. Will you want to take it? Well, he took speed, and he didn't get any sleep for over a month, and he came back home, and he was sitting down talking to his parents. All of a sudden, he started shaking. He couldn't stop shaking and everything. He wound up in the hospital. It was a good thing he did, because if they didn't get him there, he wouldn't have lived.
Well, I'm sure his a lot of his brain cells were destroyed. Okay, go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
That kid in Oodles of Poodles, Brad Van Fossen, he sucks, Fred.
Well, Fred, there's another young man, and hopefully they will get a little more of an education, Fred, because they've got a long ways to go. There's a lot of unfortunate people out there that can't speak English, and I know out in the U.S. Congress they're trying to push for English as the first language in this country, and this guy here needs to go back to school and take some lessons in English. But in the meantime, Fred,
Yes.
going back to the Republican Party, they had their big shindig down there, and the governor had everyone had a big love fest, I guess, and it was just hugs and kisses, and the left wing was hugging the right wing, and
I don't think they were.
and other than a few little resolutions, it's always a big love fest down there. Tommy comes along and just tells everybody how great it is. He's buying off Republicans and Democrats right and left, giving them both jobs. And comes down there, and you know, he's one of the top 10 contenders for president of the United States. Somebody needs to get the word out to the rest of the United States that this is a tax hellhole up here.
Well, you know, I don't think that Tommy Thompson is entirely responsible for that.
Well, he's had 7 years to do something about it, Fred.
Yeah, but you have a Democratic House or Assembly. It's hard to do that because they want to spend and spend and spend and elect and elect and elect.
Well, you know,
So in order to do that, they got to tax and tax and tax.
well, this year they had a Republican governor and a Republican Senate,
Well, you
and
need
it took
to,
the Democrats to get something moving on the real estate tax.
yeah, but you know, where's it going to come from? If you take it off the property tax, where's it going to come from?
I don't really
In
care.
other words, you got to, well, if you're going to go in and raise the sales tax and the income tax and everything, already we're being taxed too damn much as it is.
Well, you know, Fred, other states have taxed food for years, and they're not hurting for doing it. They've kept
Well, they probably got a larger income too
they've kept the real estate tax
per capita
about
as far
half.
as the worker is concerned. We're a low-income state in comparison with some others.
You know, we're a banana republic. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah.
Whoops. Okay.
I think Bobby Kennedy got killed.
Robert Kennedy, this evening, it was right after the California primary, and he
Got assassinated.
went into a hotel and was it Hotel Ballroom in Los Angeles. And after he got done speaking, went through the kitchen, and Sirhan pumped 5 or 6 bullets into him.
I was just reading about that, and they think there might have been somebody else in there that also shot,
Yeah.
because there were more shots than were fired out of that gun.
Chuck, I think you guys are doing a great job. And what's your opinion on Billy Clinton? What do you think? How's he doing?
Okay. Now, when you get off the line here, you need to stay on for a minute so the battery of operators in the other room, one of the beautiful women in there will take your name so we can get you a bottle of this Flavin Pop for
Okay.
being intelligent enough to know that on this date in 1968,
But
Robert F. Kennedy.
If I were that guy, I wouldn't drink it. Make sure they get a bottle of Fred's Best Pop.
Will it grow hair?
Well,
If it grows hair, I'll drink
it
it.
might.
Okay, have
But I
it.
tell you, there's something in here. I haven't quite figured out what it is. There's something in there.
Okay, I'm going.
It might work.
Bye.
Okay, thanks. Here, Fred, let me see that stuff. Maybe we can get a close-up on that camera. The reason we've went up to went as high as $24.95 is because we realize that you've got some kind of secret ingredients in there. See that? Look at that, Fred. You can see her on the screen there.
Yeah.
Some kind of secret ingredients in this stuff, and it's called Fred's the Best Pop. And I'm only acting as an emissary, Fred, but
Right.
I'm authorized to go as high as $24.95 for everything that has to do with that
Just
stuff.
for a bottle of it?
No, we're just buying it to get it
Oh.
off the market. It's the only reason we're buying it, because it's competing against Flavin Pop.
I know it's cutting into your sales.
I know.
I know your sales have dropped off drastically because some of the people that are buying it have been telling me they used to drink your slop.
That's what I hear. Did we have a call waiting? Okay, we'll try this call here. Then we'll get back to Fred's article there. Okay, go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Hi.
Hello.
I just wanted to talk about the job market.
All right.
It's so hard to get a job these days.
And are you old enough to get one? Okay, Fred. We're going to have a pencil here to write this stuff down, because you know something? We were supposed to talk about what Billy Clinton's up to.
Yeah.
And then after that, we're going to talk about the job market. I presume he wants to talk about the local market. Okay, Fred. Well, you got
Yes.
something there pressing on?
No, you were going to talk about Mr. Clinton, our president. There's a little something in this Christian Interpreter for, this is June 1994, Clinton health plan called socialistic. And I think it's quite true. It's a socialist plan.
Well, that's obvious, Fred. They're going to have to take billions and billions of dollars out of people's pockets so that once they've fleeced you of all your money, you can stand there and watch the lines form, and then they'll tell you to get to the back of the line because there's so many foreigners coming in and getting in line in front of you for this precious health care that they're talking about.
I'm satisfied with what I have. Now, as they say, there's 39 million or something like that, 38 million that don't have any insurance. Why not provide some form of coverage for them and let us keep what we have? Because I don't want to pay more for less.
Well, you will.
I don't want to.
It's going to be one level playing field, Fred. Everyone will get rotten care then.
Yeah.
Because it'll just be nothing but waiting lines for everything. You won't be able to just go. I know people right now that are going to Mexico because they can't get good enough care in this country. Their treatment is banned in this country, so they have to go to Mexico.
Well, they're going for some people who have cancer who have not been able to be cured, go someplace else, but that doesn't mean going to Mexico. Mexico is going to cure them.
Okay, well, Bill Clinton, he's in his 40s, a couple years older than me, Fred. He didn't go to Vietnam, and he's been regretting that decision ever since. We got some calls waiting, but we better get these questions out of the way. I think as a president, Fred, he's made some major mistakes. They've got chaos in the White House there. He's surrounded himself with young, left-wing homosexual radicals, over 20 of them, from both sexes, that are telling him what to do. He's got people that don't know anything about foreign policy telling him what to do. He's got a wife that is out of control. Hillary and Hillary's Hellcats are running more of the country than he is. But I think sometimes when you listen to some of his speeches, though, he's trying to give it almost seems like he's trying to apologize for it and trying to get back on the right track. But I don't know if he can, Fred.
Well,
He's got the wrong people surrounding him. He's got too many leftists and pseudo-communists and puppy socialists in there that want to turn this country into one big socialist love fest, and it can't work. It didn't work in Russia. It hasn't worked in Cuba. Cuba's an example. It's got Caucasians and blacks and Hispanics down there. They've had socialism for 30 years, and it's a basket case. So why would it work 100 miles north?
I agree with you 100%, Chuck. That doesn't work. And, you know, Marlon Maddox, who's on WWIB and BCX at 105 to 2 or 2:30 on weekdays, people should listen to him because they get more things in detail on this. And I heard some people call in from Arkansas and said the state, under his leadership, was going down the tubes, tax-wise and other ways, and education-wise. And look, when you have somebody like Dr. Joycelyn Elders have a free hand there, and she gave them sex clinics, and they've had and condoms in the schools. Well, they had an epidemic of abortions, number one, and number two, of illegitimate births to children.
Well, Fred, Arkansas is a basket case. It's 45th through 48th, 49th in every category you can talk about. Right down the line. You look at categories of everything. Right down the line. It's in the upper 40s. So they don't lead in anything. And yet we put in the guy that pretty much drove that state into the ground over 12 years. We put him in as president, and thank God he's only in for 4 years. But he's doing damage in this country, Fred. At a very,
true.
very accelerated rate. He's trying to do as much damage as he can. What he can't do, Hillary's Hellcats are doing. Okay, go ahead. Caller, you're on the air.
Oh, hey, thanks.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you knew that John Suffin downloaded porno pictures to his computer every day?
Who did?
John Suffin? You know, how many uses of Oodles of Poodles hand soap are there?
Fred got that one.
That must be a comedian.
Yeah.
He's calling back in.
Okay. Now another young man called in and said he can't find a job, Fred, and that's a very
well.
Here's the way it used to be in this country, Fred. When I was 14, 15 years old, I'll tell you how it was. When summer came, you could go and find a job at minimum wage anywhere you wanted to. But you know what's happened? Millions upon millions of foreigners are crossing the borders, coming to this country, and to them, a $4.25 an hour job is just like going to heaven. You know, when you're only making 20 cents an hour and you move up to $4.25 an hour, I mean, that's something. So all these minimum wage jobs are being gobbled up by, only one spot at a border crossing. One spot out of how many thousands of miles is that border down there, Fred? It's got to be over 1,000 miles, that Mexican border. One spot in 1 month, 60,000 illegal aliens are crossing. Now, our government knows that they're doing this, and they're not shutting off the faucet. So you know what that tells me? They're doing it for a reason. Now, what's the reason that they would do that? That's just one place along a very large border. If they want to do something with our military, bring them back from Europe and put them on our Mexican border and stop the drugs and the illegal aliens that are coming across, Fred. That's what's destroying this country. The drug traffic on one end is rotting people's minds out, and on the other end, the illegal aliens are coming across and taking those minimum wage jobs, and there's plenty of people in this country that are willing to hire them. And so when a poor kid gets out of high school or gets out of school during the summer, he wants to find a nice job. There's nothing left, not even working in a canning factory or picking fruit or anything.
Here in Eau Claire, I've seen a few signs on restaurants, help wanted, hiring now. Maybe they don't want to work in a restaurant, and I can understand that, but working in a restaurant is better than not working at all.
Fred, we're a little ways from the border, but I guarantee you there's illegal aliens right in Eau Claire.
Oh, I wouldn't be a
They
bit
can't
surprised.
speak, they can't put two words of English together. But
But they're not
our
working.
government is not cracking down on it. They're not shutting the faucet,
Right.
and it's going to catch up with us eventually. There's in one county, in Los Angeles County, there's over 1 million illegal aliens in one county in this country, Fred. And it's like that in dozens of counties. I'm not saying there's 1 million illegal aliens, but in dozens of counties all over the United States, there are thousands and thousands of illegal aliens scrapping with the Americans for the jobs, getting in front of Americans to get health care, because once you cross the border, you're eligible for health care. So you just look at the states of Florida and California both had to sue the federal government to try and get back some of the billions of dollars they're spending to feed, clothe, house, imprison, take care of illegal aliens. So there you have it, Fred. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, I know this kid. His name is Brad Van Fossen.
That's
sex
the
with-
same guy.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, that same guy is going to find out. You know, call waiting is just around the corner, Fred, and we'll be able to nail kids like that don't have anything better to do. All right. I'm going to try and take one more call, and then we're going to talk, Fred, about the Pro-Life Wisconsin has came out with their fact sheet on the 4 candidates for U.S. Senate. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, I got a question for the guy in the cowboy hat.
That guy?
Hasn't had sex with a cow.
Okay, Fred.
Yes.
This is a candidate's questionnaire was sent to each person registered for election to the U.S. Senate with the Wisconsin State Elections Board as of March 28th of 94, as well as to the incumbent, which is Herb Kohl. The final deadline to file for the seat is July 12, 1994, and an updated candidate survey with all candidates will be produced after that date. But anyway, as of the end of March, there was a survey done, and the candidates at that time on the Republican side were Tom Fitzpatrick from La Crosse, Matt Gunderson from Osseo, Robert Welch from Red Granite, and Kate Zieske from Peshtigo. And, of course, this being a Pro-Life Wisconsin, being the other pro-life group in the state, they want to know where these candidates stand on abortion, amongst other things. Okay, the Democratic candidate, the only one so far we know is Herb Kohl from Milwaukee, and then there's an independent called Vincent Madera from Leona. And the first question, Fred, we're going to take some calls here in a minute. The first question was, will you vote against the use of public monies to fund abortions?
Yes.
And Fitzpatrick said yes, he would. Robert Welch said yes, he would. Herb Kohl said no. Vincent Madera said yes. Matt Gunderson said yes, he'd vote, except for the cases of rape, incest, or danger to the life of the mother. Kate Zieske said yes, except rape and incest and life of the mother. So those two are basically the same.
Yes.
3 exceptions rule.
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to try and take a call here, and then we'll go on to the next question. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Hi, I was wondering about the North Korea thing with the nuclear warhead type thing. Now, I was wondering, what's Clinton's attitude on that whole thing right there?
Well,
Do you know?
yeah. You know, surprisingly, even though he wasn't in the military, I think Clinton knows that you can just go so far with this.
Now, weren't they saying that if he imposed like restrictions and stuff on him, that it'd be an act of war? Now, why don't we just go over there and just rip them apart? Because we're one of the largest nuclear countries on the face of the earth. And I don't see some little dinky Asian country telling us what to do.
Were you ever in the military?
Well, I served one tour in Vietnam.
Okay, well, they used to call it. What they're afraid of is they used to be afraid of China. They were afraid of China coming into the Vietnam War. Actually, China was secretly aiding the North Koreans and the South Koreans.
I hear you.
Also, they were aiding the Red Cambodians and the the Pathet Lao in Laos. So they were funneling in there, but what they were afraid of was just a flashpoint hot war where China would come across with 1 million soldiers and do what they did in Korea back in 1950, wasn't it, Fred? When
Yeah, I think that was
they
good.
almost pushed the Americans off the peninsula there in Korea. So they're afraid that. See, that's why Clinton is given most favored nation status to China right now, is because he's trying to keep China out of this hot spot in Korea, so that Clinton and his people can deal with Korea directly and not worry about China coming into it. So that's why we're willing to sell out on human rights in China, because we got this problem with a rogue country, a terrorist country. They've given arms and support to terrorists around the world. We got a problem with a nutcase up there who's getting very old, and he's got a son who's just as radical as he is. But they've got nuclear bombs already made. They bought some from the Soviet Union after their breakup. They've also bought some on the international market, and they're making their own. So what we're trying to do is preempt them from getting to where they can tell Korea that they're going to start dropping bombs on Korea if they don't capitulate and make the peninsula one again and turn it back to a totally communist nation. So, but we've got to stop that flashpoint. We've got 30,000 or 40,000 Americans up there on that border. Now, a friend of mine was up there back in the 60s, and there was clashes all the time. He was doing hand-to-hand combat right on the border, right there in between North and South Korea. So there's a lot that goes on there, a lot of small skirmishes that we never read about here in this country. So they're afraid that this thing will just go wide open. And you ever think of what will happen if the guy pushes the button there and does try and blow up Seoul, Korea before he dies?
Yeah, I don't know. It's all screwed up over there.
So they're trying to do diplomacy, and they're nervous because they don't know how many bombs this guy's got. That's what the problem is. We don't know how many he's already got. It's like that's why they're afraid about what's happening over in the Mideast, because we don't know how many bombs Syria's got. We know that Israel has some, but even Israel, an ally of ours, won't tell us how many they've got. So if these things start blowing up, when's it going to stop? And then is China going to want to get into it and start dropping a few, and then pull the United States into it, and then we drop a few, and then the Ukraine?
It's total chaos over there.
Yeah. So
you also have to watch out for Soviet Russia, because they got them too, and that's the same military that was strongly communist and running the country before with the help of some of the leaders, and they can take that country back any time.
Yep. Well, thanks for calling in, caller. Fred, that is a dangerous situation right there.
I know.
It always has been. It has been for 40-some years now.
I know. When I talked to guys who were in the brunt of that back in 50s, where they poured across the border and pushed them back, they were actually down on almost in the water.
Well, make no mistake about it, Fred. The Soviet Union is still a major player out there in the arms race.
Right.
I just heard on the radio this afternoon that Brazil has just cut a big deal with the Soviet Union, a major deal, to trade surface-to-air missiles for grain, coffee, and sugar. Now, Brazil is providing the grain, coffee, and sugar, and they're buying surface-to-air missiles. Now, what's Brazil going to do with surface-to-air missiles down in South America from the Russians?
I don't know.
So we still have to be leery of those Russians, Fred. They're still a major player.
I agree 100% with you.
Okay, go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment about that young man that called earlier looking for a job.
Yeah.
And I think it's just terrible, the job market around Eau Claire. If you want to get a job, you got to go through a temporary service, and they take about 33% of your wages. And most of these manufacturing jobs, that's about the only way they get a job there. And a lot of them wait for about a year until they hire you. And during that time, they can fire you at any time, and it's not actually being fired because you're a temporary worker.
Right. Well, yeah, it gets the manufacturer off the hook. It started out being a pretty good deal doing that temporary thing, because it let the company kind of see what kind of worker you were, and then then what they used to do is then after a few weeks is they say, yeah, that guy's a pretty good worker. We've washed him now, and he
Become pre-screened, and
he's
it should be a
pre-screened.
good deal. But
Becomes a
now it
work-
puts them off the hook from, they don't have to pay unemployment compensation. They don't have to pay for any type of insurance or health care on you. Yeah, I mean, that's all covered by the temporary service. So they're paying you a few dollars less than they pay the regular workers. And then the temporary service is getting 33% off of that.
Yeah, the temps are.
Just a bad situation. Thanks for your time.
Uh-huh. Well, the temporaries do take a large cut, Fred, and it gets the manufacturer off the hook all the way around.
Right.
They just call up Manpower or Kelly's Girls or whoever it is and say, hey, we want that guy out of here, and they're gone. And it's not the company firing them, it's Manpower pulling them, or Kelly's Girls or whatever the service is. And they get a nice healthy cut for being the middleman on this deal too, Fred. And there's a lot of, I guess there's reasons why the manufacturer is doing it. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, I've got a question. First time I've watched this program, but whoa, what is that?
Just a little feedback.
Oh, okay. And just wondering why you're wearing that glove there on your left hand.
This one or this? This one or this one?
I can't tell.
He can't tell either.
Use that handle what?
What did he say at the last?
I don't know. He said something about he had to get out to the fields. They're still planting corn.
Yeah.
Okay, Fred. Question number 2 on this pro-life Wisconsin survey was, will you vote against tax-funded fetal tissue research using the bodies of aborted or pre-born babies? And guess what? Matt Gunderson said no, he wouldn't vote against it. In other words, if you want to use aborted fetuses, go ahead. And he sided with Herb Kohl on that. Everyone else said yes, they'd vote against such a diabolical scheme as harvesting aborted fetuses.
Right.
But Matt Gunderson has no problem with it at all.
Right.
Amazing, Fred, what people will do to get elected. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, Chuck?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. Job thing, it's hard to get jobs. So I was trying to get a job about a month ago, right? And I applied at this place called the GPX Outlet Mall or whatever, and I never got a job or nothing. I'm really concerned about that.
Okay, well, thank you.
You want to try another place there. That might work.
Yeah, those outlet malls, Fred, I'll tell you, that's a lousy product to begin with. But anyway, Fred,
Yes.
it's amazing what those people will vote on just to think they're going to get elected.
Well,
Now,
they feel that way before they run, some of them.
Here's another important question that is on everyone's mind that's involved in the pro-life movement either way. Call that FACE bill, Fred.
Yes.
Freedom of Access to Clinics Act. The question was, do you oppose the Freedom of Access to Clinics Entrance Act, or the FACE Act, as passed by the U.S. Senate that would make interference, whether violent or nonviolent, with access to abortion-related services a federal offense? So otherwise, do you oppose that being a federal offense? And once again, everyone said yes, they opposed the FACE bill, except the liberal left-wing radical Matt Gunderson and the liberal left-wing radical Herb Kohl. One from each party.
Well, you voted for it.
I think this Matt Gunderson's in the wrong party, Fred. He seems to be siding with the Democrats on these questions. Pretty much right down the line. Amazing, Fred.
Anything else there?
Yeah, there's plenty, Fred, but we better take a call here while we can. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, I got a comment about that job thing.
Yeah.
I work for a construction company, and anyways, we have a hard time finding anybody. And we pay above minimum wage, and it seems like the thing that's going on around here is people are afraid to put in a hard day's work and perspire, to earn their living.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like in our line of work that good help is hard to find. I mean, this ain't flipping burgers or anything like that, and it's a job that takes you somewhere besides a dead-end street at max.
Yeah.
And it's...
Construction business, huh?
Yeah. you know, roofing,
what type of-
siding, and that
what
kind of
type of
stuff,
construction
and building
do you do?
houses. And it's a good paying job, and it's just like nobody wants to work hard and earn their pay.
Well, as a public service for people out there watching that need a job, you can give your phone number if you'd like to, and maybe you get some calls on it from somebody that's willing to do a hard day's work.
Okay. It'd be, well, just tell them to look up Schneider Siding.
All right.
Let's see if I can...
You know, you talk about that, and I know what you say is true because in the past, when I worked for the National Federation of Independent Business, many of the contractors told me they needed help but couldn't find good men.
That's right. And it's, you know, it's depressing.
Mm-hmm.
But one more comment. I got to give it to you guys the way you handle all these obnoxious calls.
Well, we're trying to raise the level of consciousness in Eau Claire, and sometimes you have to step on a few toes, and we're also trying to get a more educated and better qualified caller.
Right.
So sometimes we have to weed out some of the ones that don't want to talk about issues.
But I guess, you know, the one thing you got to look at is they are watching your show.
Well, I hope so.
Well, they got to be the call, don't they?
Yep. Yep.
Righty.
Yep.
Have a good night.
All right. Well, thanks for calling. Okay, Fred. We're going to take one more call here. I think we've got just a few minutes left, and let's see what else happened on this date. We already had the winner on the June 6th date. On June 7th, Fred, way back in 1712, the Pennsylvania colony banned slavery. All the way back 1712. Here in 1860s, we were still fighting over it, and they banned it over 150 years before that. Think about that. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Well, I guess I had a question for you with the D-Day event and everything.
All right.
What is your position on homosexuals in the military? I'm a prior veteran, and I guess I don't really see a problem with it. I know there's a lot of bad rap, but you know, I've known a lot of soldiers who were fine in their duties and you know, chose their own sexual orientation.
Mm-hmm. Okay, there you go. Well, Fred, as we've said before, there's always been homosexuals in the military, even back in the 40s when you were in there, Fred. They were in there. They were just what they call in the closet back then. I'm sure they still are, Fred. You couldn't go out on a ship.
Well, I think, you know, as long as they stayed in the closet, nobody considered them to be a threat.
Well, it's just like anything. I mean, you wouldn't let somebody go around beating up somebody else, and you don't want somebody going around sexually harassing somebody else.
Right.
So I think it's always been there. It's way back in the Revolutionary War, even George Washington drummed a guy out of the service when they were fighting the British over the issue of homosexuality.
Yeah.
They didn't kill him or anything. They
He
just
was
told him
a lieutenant.
they told him to go home, that
Yeah.
they didn't need his services anymore.
Give him a
So
dishonorable discharge.
So it's nothing new, Fred. Okay, I think we got about another minute, Fred. So you got a quick something there about something you can read for 30 seconds.
Well,
We got these people.
let's see.
These people are wanting to. They're waiting to get over to the other channel, Fred. We got to release these people here.
Yeah. Here in an article, and this one comes from the
20
this is
seconds,
on
Fred.
family values, and it's a short one. The National Education Association believes that every school district should provide counseling for students who are struggling with their sexual gender orientation. Unfortunately, these calls for political indoctrination of our children are being heeded nationwide this very minute.
Yeah, it's amazing, Fred. Well, as usual, we ran out of time here. We want to thank the viewers for tuning in tonight once again, and we'll hope to see you again. This program has been produced by Roy Hoff Sr. And Chris and Cliff Economaki are diligently working in the other room, Fred. They've patched up their differences.
Mm-hmm.
They're one big happy family again. So we want to thank you, and I want to tell you that this program has been brought to you by the Flavin Company, and we'll see you again right here on the Cow Report next week at 2 p.m. Good evening.
Did you see that issue?